This is not a male bad, woman good story, but it is a story of being very conditioned to behave in a certain way.
So let's welcome Sharon Diotte. Hi, Sharon. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, it's so nice to be here.
I always start with the same question. Is that when you hear allow yourself, that's the name of the podcast, what comes to mind?
Allow yourself for me has been quite a long journey. From earlier stages of being very careful, editing what I would say and what I would do and how I would respond in a culture that demanded a certain kind of behavior from me, a certain image of who I was as as a girl and as a young woman, even as a middle-aged woman. And in my middle-aged years, because of a variety of experiences like we all have in life, I came to understand that everything that I thought of myself, the way I behaved, was programmed by male thought, by a patriarchal culture that needed me to behave in a certain way and to be serviceable a certain way. And so I decided I was going through a really rough passage in my life, and I was trying to move forward, but was stuck and very frightened. And I started to realize that my wounds, my responses to my wounds, were programmed by the same culture that caused the wounds. So I was, just kind of going around in a circle, that snake biting its own tail. So everything from my religion, my school books, my image of the divine, the fiscal and religious laws that governed my life, everything was based on male thought. This is not a male bad, woman good story, but it is a story of being very conditioned to behave in a certain way. So I started to read women authors, female authors. For 13 years, I read only female authors,
Oh,
and I
interesting.
joined women's circles. And that changed what I understood I was allowed who I was allowed to be and how I was allowed to think and how I was allowed to act. So it was a transition, this understanding of allowing took a couple of decades to really mature to a place where now, when I think of what I'm allowed as an old woman now, I'm allowed to tell the truth. I'm allowed to break silence around stories that I held in secret for many years, very shrouded and weighted down by shame and fear. So allowing is actually a freedom that I've stepped into, and it has not been an easy journey, but a very rewarding journey.
Well, that's beautiful. And we usually look for our answers outside, right? That we think that is the world that is limiting us. But really and truly, that is when we realize that we can allow ourselves to give permission to tell the truth, to be free, to behave, no matter what the outside think, is liberating, isn't it?
Yes, and I call that guidance. In my book, I always refer to um, the guides, the guardian angels, all of that help we have on this journey. I call it guidance. And I've asked my guides, what is your name? And they say guidance. So I've stuck with guidance. So what you're talking about to me is our intuition. And I've actually had people who read the book say, by guidance, do you mean intuition? And yes, because our guides speak to us through our intuition. So
And
I,
whisper. They don't really talk
they whisper.
loud. They whisper.
Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
whisper. They whisper with this gentle knowing that I have discovered this gives me a direction, even if it is a direction that might feel scary. It's given with such love and peace that I can move forward. And I have found myself in situations that then demanded some deep, deep growth. But I was led into it with such love and such gentleness that I was able to take the steps that my soul was asking me to take to move forward. So
It's
I
very, it's
believe,
very, it's, sorry, it's very interesting because what you say in this world that is so noisy and so loud and so run, you really need to do something in order to be able to listen to your
yeah.
whisper. So how you do it?
So just as if you are speaking to me and in the middle of your sentence, I turn away and I do something here, I talk to somebody else, you're going to stop talking. If I keep doing that, you're going to stop even trying to communicate. And I believe our guides are the same. They whisper to us gently, they move us, they put the right people in our path, they put the right book in our path, they the right music. They lead us very gently all the time. And if we're not stopping to listen, we miss all the cues. So the thing that I have found very important for my journey is that I have to schedule listening time. I mean, you have to schedule in the same way you would schedule my appointment with you or a dentist appointment. It's actually on the calendar. And there are certain days of the week that are I want the calendar to be free to have that, a full day of quiet time. Most important for me is being able to get outside, bare feet on the earth, being able to touch the green ones, breathe with them, let the wind blow out some knots in me. And I find when I'm in nature, mostly, I think it is the most profound um, hearings that I get. And I always have my phone, we're also addicted to our cell phones. And I will, when I get these downloads, I'll jot them down. And very often they become part of whatever I'm writing. I started to do that years ago in my 40s when I was writing to teach a class through a focus on women department at a local college. And it was a class for women in transition. And it was really guided. And I would just get myself out, ride my bike or walk or whatever, and these downloads would happen. Nature is just so eager to communicate. And our ancestors are always eager to speak through us. And so I actually call on them and say, okay, I'm trying to figure this out. Tell me what am I thinking here? Make this clear for me. And all these helpers step up.
Is it's a journey, right? Because it's not so easy to get to the point that in this world that people allow themselves to listen, but it's so rich to pause. That's how I call it. People call it meditation, people call it reflection, people call it observation. I call it to pause to do all that and just to let the voice and believe it, because we usually say, that's not true. Oh, how can I do that? Oh, how can I say that? That guidance is so loving, as you say, and so tender that once you start receiving it with love also and tenderness and pay attention, it comes more frequently and it comes more direct, not so indirect. And the connection with nature, as you said,
Mhm,
is so powerful. I work like that too in
mhm.
some places. I do my retreats. I call the retreat back to the core, connecting with yourself through nature.
Yeah.
It's when the trees talk to you and you are so grounded and you are barefoot, and then you can really see you're mirroring everything in nature, how the whisper comes, and how you say that you're riding your bike and boom, everything comes through you, and you have all the knowledge, and then you have to run to write it or to record it because you're afraid to lose it.
Mhm.
uh, and yeah, it's really interesting because I experienced that too.
Can
Too,
I can
yeah.
I tell you the first time, when we are children, we just live this. We know this. We don't have to be
Oh
taught.
yeah.
There's no
Oh
words.
yeah.
We just know it. And then life teaches us not to listen. Back in my mid 30s, was an initiation for me. Back in my mid 30s, I had divorced. I had left a marriage that was not nurturing me. And there's a long story about that, but I'm not going to go into it except that I had to do this to continue growing, to literally not die, have my spirit die. And it was a very frightening time for me. I had no ideas of being single and dating and being out in the world. None. I had an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old, and what was I doing to them, and what was laying this beyond the unknown. It was a really rough time. And I experienced what I now call a holy breakdown, or maybe it was a breakthrough. And my children were I was working as a nurse at the time. My children were with their dad. They were assigned to be with their dad for that month. And I got a leave of absence from work because I was not able to hold this breakdown in place. It just had to be. I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know why I was doing it, but I was called I was very afraid of the world at the moment. I was called to sit on my front doorstep with my bare feet on the ground, facing the sun. And as the sun moved, I would shift enough to move, but I was so afraid of the world. I was afraid to be out even in my front lawn. But so I sheltered myself and I stayed there from sunrise to sunset. And as the sun moved, I'd move a little bit farther out. And at nighttime, I'd sit in the doorway and I'd bathe in the moonlight. In the daytime, my sobs were horrendous. At nighttime, my sobs were gentle. It was a gentle crying. There was such a difference between the energy of the moon and the energy of the sun. And I thought I was crazy. I thought I was dying. I thought I was worthless. I just was so at the end of my life, it felt. But by the end of that month, I began to feel that I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dying. I had value. I had made the decision that was right for me and right for my children. And my whole life shifted. And that experience created a lifelong then relationship with the earth. And I still didn't quite understand it until some months later, I found a book by Brooke Medicine Eagle. Um, Buffalo Woman comes singing. And in it, she explains our relationship with the earth and how the earth mother heals us. And that's what happened. The earth called me, and without knowing why, I I responded. So I am my own living proof that the earth heals us when we turn to her, even when we don't know why. And then as time went on, I joined women's circles doing rituals on the earth, and I studied feminine spirituality and incorporating the feminine face of God into my life made God more attainable to me. It made it more visceral. It made me connect with my own divine self. All of that was a long journey that progressed over a few decades, but that was the beginning of it.
That's beautiful, and I take from all these the this story that you're telling, the don't know why, because it's stronger than ourselves. It's like sometimes even is I think to do this and I'm doing something else and I don't know what am I doing something else. Because this guidance says not this way, come here, but in a very soft And people that have not experienced this will think, oh, they're cuckoo, no? They are just two in the air. But if you allow yourself to experience it and
Mhm.
to listen, everything starts with the listening, with the whispering that, hey, sometimes it's like, why don't you do this? It's better if you go this way.
Mhm.
Uh, if you if you have it in your stomach and it doesn't move forward, listen to your stomach when it's not moving forward. Ask your stomach why is.
Yeah. And what brings the smile to your face, right?
Yes.
I remember when my daughter was graduating
Yes.
from her first 4 years of university, and she was trying to decide which job she should accept. And when she talked about a certain job that her father thought she should do, and it had to do with the car company and being stable and working in the finance department, all that. And then she talked about this other job out of state, and her father was saying, be logical, be reasonable. This other job had to do with travel. And we sat down to talk, and she felt like she needed to do what her dad wanted her to do. But when she talked about the other, her face lit up. You could tell that she was thinking with her heart, right? And I told her, I said, Yasmin, when I look at your face, I can see where your soul, where your guidance is inviting you to move. And she ended up taking that job, and it has served her very well. Stepping stones, but has served her very well in her career. She's now 53. And that leads me also to people often ask me why I wrote Toyota, and there's three or four different reasons. But one reason is that I wanted to give my children hope. I want them to know that, yeah, life is hard, but if you listen to the joy that you're being infused with, right? When guidance really talks to you, guidance never talks to you in a way that makes you frightened and scared and, oh, I gotta do what the culture says, and that's not how guidance speaks.
No. That's it's very interesting because that's what I call it flip it over.
Yes.
When that's what I call it flip it over because I went through very hard times of my life, but I had a voice in my head, in my heart, really bad, that said, this is happening to you because something bigger, it's preparing you for something bigger that is coming for you. So you have to go through this, take it as easy as you can, because it's preparing you for something bigger. And really completely change the perspective of how I was going through all this nonsense, I call it, in the outside world. And I have a very special friend that also changed my whisper me, that I said, can you please help me? Why this is coming back to me? What do I need to learn this time? I already went through this. And he looked at me and said, what I hear is that you're not coming to learn this time, you're coming to teach this time. So that's a whisper through nature, no? Another person, a dog, a tree, whatever comes to your mind or in a
Mhm.
dream, completely flip it and change my perspective of what I was going. Okay, if I need to teach, I need to learn more. So I went into like a really deep research of what's happening to me because nobody understood what was going on. So it's those small signs that you don't catch. It's taking you to a path that is not yours, that sooner or later it will come harder for you to understand. Hello, I told you not this way, I told you this way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had a podcast not long ago with an Australian guy, Rick. I don't remember his last name, but and I catch that really nice because he says that what we do is what the heart says. How we do it is what our mind says. And when we do it is when our God tells us when to do it. So
Mm.
all the idea, the passion, everything comes from the heart. And how to do it, yes, it's always guided, but the heart guides the mind how to do it. And the God says, tells you when.
Yeah, yeah. That is so true, isn't it? And that when doesn't have a time frame that you might expect. It
No.
might be rather instantaneous, but it can take quite a long journey. When during this time, a little after this holy breakdown, I continued working as a registered nurse, and I was discovering that my patients, same age roughly, same genders, same disease, some got better, didn't respond the same with the
Mhm.
standard allopathic care. Some got better, some stayed the same, and some died. And it was a time in the 80s there where there was this movement in the healthcare system where we were starting to understand that disease is very often and most likely always caused by spiritual dis-ease. Chopra and all these different wonderful people were bringing this forward. And I could see that in my practice. And I could see that women's diagnoses often included the word anxiety, whereas men with the same diagnosis didn't include the word anxiety. And we attached that kind of notion of hysteria and anxiety to women without giving any thought to what was below, what was beyond, what was the cause of this. And it had to do with labeling the feminine as somehow weaker, right? So I realized that something was shifting. My soul was asking me to shift my work to be more in alignment with my spiritual journey at that moment. And so I decided I didn't want to continue working only in sickness. I wanted to work in wellness. So I created a program, a wellness
What
for
a
women
different
program,
approach from there, huh?
a different approach.
Yeah.
I decided to flip it.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a program. I called it Wellness for Women because I lived in a very conservative community and I didn't want to make it sound like you said earlier, this woohoo kind of stuff, right? Although it was the true woohoo of life, right? So I created a really lovely 6-week program, and it had to do with all the things I was learning on my journey, how health is achieved, how health is maintained, the social and how we, after some decades of somewhat defined women at each stage of invited to teach it at a local college through the Focus on Women department. And before that time, I had the reason I was invited
Wait,
to
wait.
teach it there was because during college,
Something
I
was
took a
happening with
program.
the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, now again.
So during that
Sorry.
time after my divorce, when I was in this holy breakdown and I was, helped by the earth, I ended up taking this program through the Focus on Women department for women in transition. And it really helped clear away some stuff for me, some junk for me. So when I was teaching this new program I had created in local lodges and places in my community. But I hated marketing. So I did my prayer, my form of asking for guidance, and guidance said, go talk to that woman who taught you the class. So I went to the college and I said, I want to talk to Miss Jean. And they said, oh, well, she's not teaching anymore. Now she's managing the Focus on Women department. I said, oh, well, I'd like an appointment. Got me an appointment. I went in. She remembered me. I brought my syllabus. I said, this is what I'm teaching. This is a wonderful program. She said, you're not a certified teacher, but you're a registered nurse. Because all our classes in this department are not credited classroom, I can hire you to teach this program here. So we did that, and I did it for about 3 years. And this whole thing about flip it and this whole thing about how we change and we follow guidance, that first day after that evening, at o'clock at night, so it's still light outside and a gorgeous, late spring day. And I'm walking across the green of this college. And a few years before my divorce, after my children got to a certain age or in school, I wanted to take some classes at the college. And I had gone and got everything arranged so it wouldn't interrupt with my wifely and motherly duties and house duties, and my husband wouldn't hear of such nonsense. So I brokenheartedly shelved it. Here I was walking across the campus, and as an earlier, somewhat trophy wife, I had been given respect as the wife of a doctor. Now I felt these ridiculous shackles just fall away, and I realized I feel respected based on my own becoming. And I realized that not only was I respected for my becoming, I was also doing the meaningful work of changing the culture that had so inhibited me. I was changing the culture that had held me in shackles for too long. So it's you. I mean, I love the word flip it, but it's much deeper than the word might suggest. It is deep,
Yes.
deep reconditioning of the self, isn't it?
Yes. It's um it's very hard to explain if you have not lived it, what really flip it means. Because if we go deeper of what you just did, changing the wording from sickness, that it's associated with fear, with death, with struggle, to wellness, that is associated with love, with ease, with flow, is a flippant, very, very, very deep, just in the word,
Exactly.
just in the word. Now, I can imagine at that time this shift in the concept and the energy of creating or focusing on sickness, that focusing on wellness. And it's the same thing, it's both sides of the same coin. Where do you find is when I go to the doctor, or my husband was in the hospital, every person that touched me or every person that touched him, I said, thank you for your healing hands. Thank you for your healing
Mhm.
hands. Because at the beginning it was, oh, another shot. And it's you're bothering me. It's midnight. No, 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 no. Thank you for your healing hands. That's it. It's the flipper of let the love come in. Allow it. Allow your love come in. Allow the light come in. So
Mhm.
in your book, as you were telling me, what's the main idea that you want to transfer so people really need to buy in any bookstore or Amazon the book of Teora of Sharon Diotte? What's the insight? What do you want to
Yeah,
transfer there?
I feel the insight, and it was the attention around the actual work of writing it. I hope that when, I mean, men can read the book and learn a lot. My doctor, who's a homeopathic doctor, a male, he read the book and loved it. He came to my book signing and all that. So it's not just a women's book, but I live in the body and the psyche of a woman, and I understand the woman's journey. So I wrote the book always with the intention, yes, I'm talking about some dark moments, but there's always a reason for it. And if I can get through these dark moments, you can. Everyone can. And one of the things that I found very helpful, and I get a lot of feedback from women, is that it was difficult for me to break my silence around shamed experience, things that were done to me that made me feel ashamed, around especially sexual attack. Um, but also, I held shame around choices I made at earlier times in my life when I would make different choices now. But in writing the book, I've come to understand that I made the best choice I could in that moment with what I knew and what I was dealing with. And so, in order for me to sort of bridge that hesitancy to admit the truth, because truth telling is the absolute responsibility, I think, when you're writing a memoir, and especially when you get to be an old woman. I hope we can do it all through our lives, but in elder years, you tell the truth. In order to free myself to tell the truth, I
Your
created
truth, your truth.
my truth, yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
And I created a section at the end of chapters that dealt with some very deep and painful journeys and that were written honestly with the choice I made at the time and the consequence. So I wrote this section and guidance downloaded this. It says it's called Wisdom Speaks. At this age, you can now say wisdom speaks. And in that section, it may have been one, sometimes four paragraphs, I explain what I've learned from this, what I might do different, I would do differently now based on the same set of circumstances. But the feedback I get from women when they read Teora is that speaks to them. They've said to me that I feel like justified is a strange word to use, but I feel allowed to own my experience too, because I did the best I could. And yeah, I've learned more. And I'm not that person totally, but she is still a part of me. Right? I mean, we don't heal ourselves and move on from who we were. Who we were is always who we are now. So I think that is the main message of my book. I wanted to um, give a kind of an uplift of hope that we manage amazing difficulties in life. But what you said is so impacting. And you said that this is not just for my learning, it's for my teaching. And that's what we have to awaken to and hold on to, and then have the guts to take action so that we can
To
become the
assume the
teacher.
responsibility, to allow yourself to be a teacher of all the experience that you went, and there
Yeah,
is, okay, if I could go through this is how I saw it, this is how I learned, this is the guidance I got. You can do it too. Just
right.
listen, just
And I
wait.
found we have to, in doing that, we have to confront our inner critic and our inner imposter. After I wrote the book and I was published it, and then I was going to do a book signing, my inner imposter just went wild. And she said, so you really want to call yourself a writer now? You're not a real writer. Put yourself in a room with other writers and see if you really measure up. And are you really a teacher? That's the imposter. That's what we've been taught. We've been taught to diminish ourselves and to feel that we're not ready and not capable. But again, I had to flip that. I had to say to her, you're not my foe. You're my ally. You're trying to protect me. I know you're scared. This is change. You see change as danger. I get it. You're part of me. And then move forward into the role. And then, you know, what more proof can I tell you? Here I am talking to you.
Yeah, yeah, and I smile because when I wrote the book, The Flip It Over, the imposter syndrome. Not only the imposter, the surroundings also. What? You're not an author. How come you're writing a book? You're not a writer. How come you're writing a book? So I said, I'm not a writer, but I'm the author of the book. So it's my story and it's my point of view and it's my point of seeing. Yes, I need some help editing. That's okay because I'm not a writer. I'm an author. But I'm the author of my life. So that's where I can. That was my talking to my imposter. My,
And, and you mentioned the outer critics. I discovered that just what is the African saying? It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to write a book. And I had to be very careful about who was going to populate my village as I wrote this book. And I had amazing people step up. My husband encouraged me every step of the way. And when I was at moments where I thought I'd say, I can't do this, he'd say, it's your story. Only you can tell your story. Go back to work. My children helped me. My sister, I would email her chapters so we could review our childhood memories so I could get things right. A girlfriend, Rosie, who was retired but was an editor at a university, she took the manuscript and gave me some feedback and said, "You are a writer. Yes, you could do this." Another friend read chapters and helped me like twist little phrases that carried the melody better, right? Like we're all writing a melody. I just had so many people s- sort of encircle me to say, "You can do this." And I believe guidance is the one that, and the people who had a negative
They
energy
left.
come at me, you're not in my village right now.
No, and they leave. They don't
And they
even
leave.
they don't even come close. I remember that I did my work was backwards because I was teaching phototherapy. That is what I specialized lately. So I do therapy through photography. So
I'll have to Google that because I have no idea what that
no,
is.
we can stay in a little bit. I can show you like cards like these. Okay, so we talk
Oh,
about cards. So we can stay a little bit after, and then we can play a little bit, so you can find yourself, and you skip your logic and goes to your subconscious one time with the phototherapy. So I was teaching other coaches and doctors and nurses about phototherapy, how to use it in their field. So I told my story at the beginning because I wanted to be vulnerable so they can be vulnerable too. So to allow them, right, to be vulnerable. So they say, "Oh, you need to read a book. You need to write a book. Ah, you need to write a book." So I took it. That's the message, okay? You need to write a book. So I went and did a course of how to write to make millions with Lisa Nichols. Millions of friends, it's the real thing. She left it in millions, like people will think million of dollars, but not a million of friends. And so, but what happened to me with the book, as you say, is I said, okay, these are I want to write these 12 chapters, and these are the names of the chapters. So I started saying, okay, this week I would like to write this chapter. And I went to sleep, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, I had somebody whispering and dictating me what I was writing. Says it went through me, through my experience, through my knowledge, but the wisdom is not mine, is the guidance from outside. Yeah, but it's kind of
it's a
uh,
download.
it's a download completely. You just and you cannot stop. It's 2 3 hours. You keep writing,
Yep.
writing, writing, and you cannot stop. Yes, I remember when I taught also in jail, uh, men, 45 men. I went and asked for guidance before I entered. And when I went out, I said, "What did I talk about?" Because I was the medium only. It was
Yeah.
a download completely, allowing that guidance. That
Hmm.
guidance is so, so rich what you
Hmm.
can get.
Hmm.
So, um,
And when we talk about guidance, I have discovered that sometimes, just as we talked about a little earlier, guidance is this soft, it's this intuition that you're knowing. Sometimes it's this download where you're just writing because these words are coming, and but without actual sound, but still the words are coming through. And I've also the third way, um, I have experienced guidance as a voice. Now, only 3 times in my life, but as a definite voice. Um, the first time I had to leave Rapa Nui after the first 2 years because my husband had a closed head injury and his psychotic flares were very dangerous. And I write about all of this and what I learned about mental health there. And I had to come home. I had to protect myself. And I was 2 years back in Michigan and I was, hurting, but knew I had to go on with life. And I was sitting after doing some yard work and some gardening. I was sitting on my patio feeling totally relaxed and safe. And I was watching the mailman and his little truck delivering mail slowly. They have to go slowly between the mailbox. So everything was slowed down, right? And I heard as definitely as I hear your voice as we're talking, but the voice was in my head. It didn't come from a burning bush or from somewhere else. And the voice said, it's time to go back. And it was so gentle and so real and determined. And I said to it in my head, I can't go back. He won't mean to, but he could paralyze me. He could kill me. I can't do this. And the voice said, we will show you the way. And then, not in a voice, but in this downloading, it said, when we see you take the first step, we'll give you the next steps. And the story goes on how I ended up going back to Rapa Nui. My husband was dying. I started having dreams that he was dying. And this whole guidance was set that I was supposed to do a spiritual tour on the island for women. And it's a long story, it's in the book. I went back and I nursed him through his last 4 years of life. I was part of I was his death angel. You know, he was very afraid to die. And because he was afraid of punishment because of his mental illness, he had hurt people, you know? So he was afraid of punishment. So it was really interesting how I think, I don't know. I can't know because I don't have the experience, but I wonder if guidance had not said with a firm, male, loving voice, calling itself we, it's time to go back. I don't know if I would have heeded the guidance. And then the 4 months, another long term, I'm sitting there and I'm exhausted. I'm living in the hospital with him. I'm awake 24/7 because he was in such pain and such fear. I had to keep my hands on all the time and reassuring him and all this. And I fell into a deep, deep sleep at the foot of his bed. I had a bed positioned at the foot of his so I could keep my hand on his foot so he could rest. And I woke up from this deep sleep out of paralysis, really. And I got up and I had some food there and I made myself a little sandwich and I was sitting trying to bring myself back to awake because I knew he was going to wake up any minute and need his strong medication. He was in such pain, lung cancer that had spread. And I heard the same voice, same male voice, same beauty, same tone. And it said, the fight is over. And I said, what do you mean the fight is over? And it said, the fight is over. And Pitaki, my husband, right then said in Spanish, Charon, Charon, ayúdame, ayúdame. And I went to his side and I said, what is it, Pitaki? Hold on, I'll go get the nurse for your morphine, you know, the extra added more morphine. I went and got her. I came back, hurried back, and she came in with the medication. And I put my hand on his heart because if he was dying, I didn't want to interfere. And I could feel his heart stopping. So I said to Rosie, the nurse, I said, don't inject the medication. And I went to the other side of the bed. She stepped back and I took him by the hand and I said, it's interesting because we were both so tired, he needed to go. But at that moment, I didn't want him to go. Isn't that interesting? How we want to hold on to life at whatever cost. But I said, it's okay, Pitaki, your grandmother's waiting. Go. And he lived with the mask, the oxygen mask for months. And he took that mask off and he threw it against the wall at the end and he went, and he was gone. So guidance spoke to me at times when guidance knew that I probably would not be able to respond had it been a gentler, softer download. It spoke with clarity.
That's beautiful. And one thing that you said before is like your friends that feel guilty for something that they did in the past. It's kind of not fair to judge yourself with you in your past that you didn't have the tools that you have today.
Right.
It's not, you cannot judge yourself back then with the tools that you have today.
Yeah.
It's too cruel, I think, because everybody does the best they can in the moment they are with the tools they have and the knowledge they have. So it's an invitation and allowing to to take in and hug that person that was there, that
Mhm.
because they went through that, they have the tools today,
Mhm.
because they learn. It's it's really empowering to allowing and embrace, and also allowing and embrace the guidance in that softness without the fear, because that's what the guidance mainly does, is just release it, let
Mhm.
it go.
Mhm.
It's loving, it's not fear. When fear, you just fear to let go, fear that what's happening, you just grab things
Right.
stronger and harder. And with love, you just release and trust the process. I always tell that I used to work in security, and now I closing doors and closing padlocks to make people feel safe. And life guided me to this work that I do now, that it's open minds and hearts. Okay? But to make people feel safe is the both sides of the same coin, one with fear, one with love. And
Mhm.
that's the allowing of that guidance. That is a beautiful, beautiful story. I invite all that are listening to us, our guests, Sharon's guest and my guest, to buy Sharon's Diotte book. The name is Teora, and you can get it in any bookstore. Um,
And on Amazon. Mhm.
and in Amazon. And Sharon, is there anything else that you would like to add and invite? What would you say to our guests, that as an insight, as a one line insight or one word?
I think the sentence I would leave us all with is we don't realize until we break our silence around shame-based experiences that we never will be truly free until we do that, until we break the silence. That old saying, who said it? Is it Confucius? I don't know. The truth will set you free. It actually does. It is really true. And I discovered that telling the truth, the act of it during those 4 years of writing, didn't feel like it was setting me free. It felt like a hard job, and it was very, very difficult to continue the assignment,
And
the
you were
sacred assignment.
confronting to yourself.
Yeah.
You were confronting yourself. Yeah,
But now when I hold, I don't have my book in front of me, I should have it. But when I hold my book in my hands, I feel a sense of accomplishment. And I realize that I have so much more to be proud of than I ever had to be ashamed of. And that's what I want people
exactly.
to know.
This is who I am, with the shadows, with the darkness, with the light, and the light prevails all the time, because there is no light if there is no darkness. You cannot differentiate. So it's it's really, really, really nice. And I kept one sentence that I even two, really. One is, every soul has a purpose. So listen, just
Yeah.
allow it, because every soul has a purpose. And the other one is, when you're guided, even if you don't know why, do it.
Yeah.
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 So thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your sharing, for your journey, for your heart, and for sharing really this amazing story. And this conversation really is a amazing, powerful reminder of allowing ourselves isn't just a one-time decision. It's a daily decision. It's a daily
Yeah. Yeah.
practice of courage, of grace, of self-trust, of kindness, of, I like the word kindness, and of love. Really, a lot of grace in it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I want to thank you, Miss Beatriz, for providing this opportunity for me to practice and learn and grow so that I can step into my next whatever guidance says is the next step for you. This is really a lovely opportunity for me, and I really appreciate you being so gentle. You're really like my mamacita in the moment.
Yeah, and you're so wise. It's really nice talking to you and really
Thank
nice
you.
knowing all your experience. So, and maybe we'll be our next time. So, uh, see you later.